Here we are. Excuse me. Runny nose today. It's been rainy and wet. Going into fall here in New Jersey. A real pain in the butt. It was missing the stock airbox on this bike. And I managed to find a stock airbox on eBay. It had the boots with it already. It still had the because a lot of the you'll find a lot of boxes for these bikes, but they're missing this. Excuse me. They're missing this. They're missing the boots because those parts are getting a little harder to find. You can buy them brand new. You can get boots brand new for this, but it doesn't look like you can get new airboxes or a new one of these. And sometimes you have to mix match, your parts with it. Now this is an 81. Anything from 81 to 83, these fit, which is good. And there's a little difference. Some have like the grommets in the front here where the carburetor's hooked into, or they go into the bottom. And this one doesn't have it, and these are free. But I've rebuilt these carburetors. I cleaned them and rebuilt them, and so they're working good. But just so you know about these Kawasaki CV carburetors, they have rubber tip. They have rubber tip plunger style stoppers, and they're spring loaded. So if these things sit for like a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and once you get them running again, they're gonna leak out the front because they have an overflow, because they have a vent that comes right up here. You can see this vent right up here and into here. That helps with the with the vacuum and drag and everything, because these are the constant velocity carburetors. They're not bad carburetors, as if you keep them clean and you run the bike regularly, then these things don't overflow. That's like I started it and ran it today, because I started running it like a couple days ago. It didn't leak. Didn't overflow at all. It ran perfect. Another thing with these KZ750s, they're a little cold-blooded to begin with. You got to get them warmed up, and once you warm them up, they run fantastic. Now, just so you know, with these CV carburetors, you can run pod filters on them, but pod filters run terrible on these carburetors. If you're gonna run pod filters on these bike, you're gonna have to get a non-CV type carburetor set. You'll have to get a set like off a 650 that does not have the CV type carburetor, an older style, or something like off a KZ1000 that does not have the constant velocity carburetors. Then pod filters are a lot easier to run on these things, because you have to get special pod filters for these, because if most pod filters have a lip on the inside and it blocks off the air ports that help control this slide right here. And you'll really know if you get an old bike and has pod filters on the CV carburetors. Taking off from a start, you have to gas the crap out of it. It makes it a little difficult to ride. And since I've put this stock airbox on this bike, stopping and going has been beautiful. It sounds better. Another thing is that pod filters on CV carburetors will kill your RPM ratios on your in between gears. The RPM ratio went back up on this bike. I'm able to RPM out a lot easier. When I first started driving the bike, 4,000 RPM was hard for this bike in first gear. Now it can go to almost like 6,000 RPM. And then in second gear, even further, I can bump it up to 7, because the RPM limits in each gear are a little bit are different because of a few technical mechanical things with the way the bike runs. But, it's a lot smoother now. There's far less vibration. I had to put new tires on it, new chain. And also, while I'm talking about, I'm going to give you guys a little tip about these covers here. These covers, everybody complains about the grommets when they get old, and they're a pain in the ass, and they are a pain in the ass. But if you still have these grommets, and even though they're a little old, say they're cracked on the center and they're separating like almost in half, what you want to do, just until you get the new ones, because they still sell these. They're easy to get. You can get them on eBay. You can get them on Z1 Enterprise website, which is really cool. But if you can go ahead and take super glue, what you do is you take super glue. I like the Loctite stuff. You take this and you go ahead and you glue the centers back together, and you set like a socket or something heavy on it and let it sit for a couple minutes. Don't be impatient. Let it sit for a couple minutes. And then what you do is, what I do anyway, is we're going to go over here to the workbench to show you what I do. Because the rubber's old, you know, you don't want to crack it or harm it anymore. You take this, you take a hair dryer, like a block of wood, and you warm it up real good. And it also, that also helps to it really helps to get the glue to set. Anywho, that, and I have another project I'm gonna record so I can start making at least a couple more videos. This is for the refuel warning light on the bike. I had to take this out because a seal was gone in this. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. You see you see that seal right there, and it's riveted. That's actually riveted. There's a where's my our workbench is a mess. It's being a real pain in the butt. Where did I put it? That's one. I probably put the screw back in on the other side. Oh, there it is. There we go. So which one is it? I'm correct. It is. This one is the one the rivet was on. Because now this still works, but the seal was gone, and I had to take it out and put a bolt and some silicone in there to get it to seal up. And we're gonna go ahead and see if I can. There you go. See? That was riveted over on the top on the other side of the mount. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to end up fixing this. I'm going to do it with silicone and re-riveting that back on. I haven't quite figured out what I want to do. If I want to go ahead and do a countersink in that, because I'm thinking about doing a countersink to give it some extra space so I can re-rivet that back on, because this unit still works. Or I'm also not sure if they have a kit for this. I haven't really looked. I didn't bother to look because doing something like this really isn't that hard. Repairing this, because this isn't cracked. The only thing that's faulty is this rubber seal. It was leaking through the side, and it made things real difficult. It sucked. See if I stay still enough, it focuses. You see how bad that seal is. It's just dry and cracked. There's no and what you do is you want to use a gas resistant silicone sealant. You use it, I'll just end up putting it around there and stuff, and I'll show you where that mounts in on the tank. Let's go over here. So this is the side it actually mounts on here. I don't know if you can see it up in there. Yeah, that, but I ended up putting a bolt right there with some silicone on it, and replaced the seal. I replaced the seal on this, and then I just put it back up in there, and that just keeps it from leaking. It's been a really great bike. I've had a lot of fun on it. It still needs some cleanup work, because, and then you see this right here. This if you get Rust-Oleum, the satin black matches this really good. And what you do, see, this rust isn't so bad. So what I'll do is I'll take some what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna end up taking some brake cleaner and clean this off with like a toothbrush you know, get it clean and knock it off. And then what I'll do is I'll take a brush and I'll brush it in there, just keep it from rusting any further. Because this is, for me, this is about riding the bike, you know, having a nice daily rider. I'm not at this point, I'm not worried about going, you know, gun-ho on the restoration. It was missing this. It was missing a lot of parts. So I had to order parts for it and stuff like that. But other than that, it's been really fun. It's been a lot of fun doing this bike, riding this bike. My dad handed it down to me. But yeah, you know, and generally Kawasaki's are pretty easy to work on. The electrical was a complete mess in this bike. I had to go through it and clean up all the connections and whatnot. And there's still, it looks messy in here, but everything's like connected solid. It was cleaned up. You know, I got some, I've had to do some rewiring because some of the wiring was shot. And, you know, it's tucked in underneath here, you know. This is just a connector end. I just did that just so the it wouldn't accidentally short anything out. But you know, I have bullet connectors. I have some fresh bullet connectors on here. I went and took like these plugs. An easy way to clean these plug ends is to take a fresh thing of CLR and dip these in CLR, like a cup of CLR, and they'll clean up great within like a couple hours. They'll get real clean. Just remember not to have your battery plugged in, or you'll do some electrolysis. You know, impregnate the CLR with the copper, and then it will coat all your parts with copper. Don't do that. I made that mistake. Don't do it. But other than that, it's great. I've had a lot of fun with the bike. It's been really great to work on. You know, I'm lucky because my dad likes keeping his stuff original for the most part. The only reason why the air box wasn't on it, because when he got the bike, he didn't have the air box on it. Someone else did that. But you know, these are these mufflers used to come out to the side, and I didn't like that. I'm gonna get a new set of mufflers for it because I want to be able to get better sound out of it. But other than that, bike is really cool. I've changed all the vacuum hoses and everything in here. It's got new gas line. The coils seem to work really good. I've changed the oil in this twice since I've got it. Just for guys who plan on getting an old bike like this, it's been sitting at the engine's locked up. If you see silver in your oil after getting it running and changing the oil for the first time, don't freak out. That's because the part, you know, everything in the engine sat for a long time. As long as it's the kind of seizure where it sat and not one where it overheated and locked up, you're gonna be okay. All right, because it freaked me out a little bit because I saw a lot of silver in the old crappy oil that came out of this, you know. And it was a little scary because I was wondering if it was going to stay running right. So far, it's just continued to run better and better. And then when I did my second oil change, the only silver that I found is a little bit that came out the inside of the oil filter, because it pumps the oil from the bottom of the pan through the engine into the filter and back into the system. When I changed the oil, the main oil that came into the pan had no silver. So, you know, so far the engine's running. It honed itself back out, and it's working good. But yep, that's my bike. Running pretty good so far. I'm happy with it. Yep. Let's go ahead and put this on here. I'm really happy with now that little, see, got a little pop there. Not just gonna come loose and off. And I'm gonna go here. So there we go. So that's what I've done with it so far. I'll end up putting I'm gonna put new mufflers on it, new tires. There's new tires all the way around it. But yeah. So it had, when I first got it, had like 19,400 something miles. As you can see, I've put, quite a bit of miles on it. I've put a little over 600 miles, about 638 miles on this bike, I think. But it's been really enjoyable. This is my girlfriend's bike. This is a 78 Honda Hawk. I just got this running. It had these old Hondas. If they're not grounded right, because they won't run. Like, this needed to be grounded. Like, I had to go ahead and I had to sand this out here, and then ground this. I had to clean all the sockets and everything up apart. There's a few things I need to do, like these boots. It's like I'm gonna have to seal this boot back up, see if I can get this boot to seal back up nice. But the engine, the oil in this engine's really clean. The bike, the bike itself only has 6,000 miles on it. When I got it, there's signs of what happened. I think is someone scared the crap out of themselves. See this? Yeah, and the old controller up here had road rash on it. The old one had rash there. You can see the rash there. This got bent up. I had to bend this back out to get this to line back up. This heat shield right here was what was really bad. I had to retap this and put a different bolt in it. Now, this muffler is off of a 79 or 78 Honda Hawk, but it will keep the compression ratio right in the engine. This has the original airbox. These boots are still pretty good. They're supple enough. They're not going to cause any problems. I got a new chain for the bike. That's the old chain. It looks good because I cleaned it up and stuff. This was all rusted out. We took a wire wheel after that. There was a lot of rust and pitting on there. There was even more rust and pitting on the wheels. They look good from here, but there's still a lot of pitting on them, which is, it's fine. This is going to be an everyday rider from her. This is her first bike, so I had to, change the tubes and the tires and whatnot, but, I had to get another tank for it. That's the new tank for it. The seats there. 99% of the bike is original. Got original Honda part there put on it. The old mufflers were so rotted out. The brakes were locked up in this bike, so I got the brakes running. I had to build my own cable. Like this cable right here, I soldered the end onto that, so I got that. And I had to buy the cable from the hardware store, run a new cable in it, and make a new end for the brake. And then, so the brake works good, and everything runs freely. I'm gonna have to do the same thing. I have to build a new cable end for here. I make a mold and a piece of hardwood, and what I do is I melt this stuff down like this. This will become the part of the melt. I have a propane torch. I can melt that down. And what you do if you have to use some extra material, so what you do is you use this right here. See this stuff? This lead-free stuff is fine. You can use this, and what you do is you add a little bit of copper wire to it, but it takes a while to melt the copper wire in, just so you know. So you put it in there, and then if you want, you can add a little tiny bit of charcoal in there that will degasify this stuff. Also, before you go ahead and you pour this stuff into the mold that you make, put flux in the hole and flux the wire. That way that this stuff impregnates your wire really good, and that it makes a solid form. But yeah, that's not bad. Right now I got the carburetor soaking in this stuff right here. turn it back around. Oh my god. Yeah, that stuff's pretty starting to come off. This broke on me. I got to get a new one. This cheap Chinesium one broke on me. So I'm going to go get a different one. Try my luck again. But while it was working, it cleaned this up really good. I put a new rubber seal on, and this thing's all free, and it works really good now. And the stuff I was using in this that works really good, and one of the other YouTubers was using it, is this parts cleaner. Now, you got to be careful because you don't want to get this stuff too hard. It just needs to be like lukewarm. If you can get this stuff to a lukewarm mix with the ultrasonic cleaning, this works fantastic. And it works twice as good as just soaking it in this bucket here. So, but yeah. And my messy workstation, I have to clean it back up. Again, you know, everything. This is a spanner wrench I made for her motorcycle for taking the flywheel off so I could work on the electrical components inside the engine. But, yep. Now this is SAE. You get away with using these, but I'm gonna need to get another set of these, some metric ones. The metric works better with the Japanese bikes because they're all metric. Put this bolt back in here so it's in one place. I'll chase it around when I get to fixing that. But yeah, that's about it. No, that's like because they crashed the bike. This got buggered up in here. Like this piece was cracked. This has ended up cracking. So what I did is I cut this off. I smoothed it out. I'm gonna end up painting this, and you won't even know the difference. And then when I got this part, it came in a set. So, and I didn't use the other one on that side because I didn't need to, because that other side worked really good. And then so I went and I used this on her bike. So yeah, that right there, I might just get a boot or something to put over that. So anywho, we'll catch you guys later.